Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. We have a great show for you. First, more details come out regarding Sean "Did He Do It" Combs being compared to that guy named Jeff by police authorities. The prosecutors in the Karen Reed case hire a defense attorney to help them. Yep, you heard that correct. Bryan Kohberger gets to meet his new judge, have details. An ex-CIA agent gets sentenced to federal prison for 30 years. A story about a dad's love for his daughter. Get your minds out of the gutter. This is a good story. Now you can't trust the delivery drivers anymore. Is nothing sacred? And we also have a story about this day in legal history and our dumb criminal of the day. Let's talk about it.
Hi, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Reich, and you know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below, hit that little bell for notifications, and you can check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. All right, before we get started, go to crimetalksearch.com, sign up for that background subscription service today so that you can do a background search on anyone here in the United States. And the beautiful thing is you can do one search or you can do as many as your little heart desires as long as you have that subscription, and you can cancel anytime. And that background report is going to be completed literally while you wait, and then it'll be emailed to you and you will have it in your hot little hands. And you'll be able to find out information as to whether this person has criminal history. Are they on a registry? Are they divorced? Do they have judgments against them? All those things that you want to know about before you bring somebody new into your life. And if you're dating on one of those dating apps, well, it is dating malpractice if you don't check somebody out at crimetalksearch.com. All right, let's go ahead and get to the docket today for September 19th of 2024. All right, Sean "Did He Do It" Combs will remain in custody until his federal sex trial is complete. Now, as you know, he's been charged with human trafficking as well as racketeering charges. And he was originally denied a bond in federal court, which is not uncommon under the Bail Reform Act of 1984, because he is a danger to the community and a flight risk. And you can appeal that from the magistrate to the district court judge that's going to handle that. Well, guess what? He did that, and yesterday afternoon, the district court judge said, nope, you are a danger to the community, a flight risk, and we also believe that you are going to tamper with witnesses. And how did the prosecution convince the judge to do that? Well, they let the judge read text messages following his attack on his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, and those were read to the court. Now, the prosecution shared alleged text messages between Sean "Did He Do It" Combs to his ex to strengthen the argument that he should remain behind bars. The court heard Sean "Did He Do It" Combs allegedly text Ventura, quote, "Call me. The cops are here. I got 6 kids. You, please call. I'm surrounded. You going to abandon me alone?" Ultimately, the prosecution prevailed. The defense argument, even including some $50 million in security to make sure that Mr. Combs did not leave the country or fail to appear at any court appearances. But at the end of the day, the judge said there is no condition or set of conditions that would ensure the safety of the community or his appearance in court. And frankly, they were concerned that he would be attempting to contact witnesses and attempting to tamper with those witnesses. Now, we put a video up yesterday, and that is what I said. I said the judge, when the appeal was done, I actually didn't expect it to take place that same day, but I said that's going to be the biggest thing is the tampering, and that's what the judge hung his hat on for sure. Now, several of the agents, speaking on condition of anonymity, are saying that Sean "Did He Do It" Combs is just as bad as that guy named Jeff. That's right, Jeffrey Epstein. Apparently, Mr. Combs had a clearly a dedicated room just for sex with cameras all around. Agents noted that If you were in those sex parties, you were being recorded from every possible angle, including angles you wouldn't have known about, according to the federal agents. Now, like I said, these orgies were referred to in the indictments as freak-offs, Diddy's words, not mine, where they would drug up victims and allegedly force them to have sex with male prostitutes. And like I said, the agents believe that he is just as bad as Jeffrey Epstein. Obviously, the late pedophile who hung himself behind bars, coincidentally being held at the same prison facility as Sean Did He Do It Combs. Anyway, now these women are young and either barely legal or barely illegal. Now, as you may recall, the indictment alleged that the women, some of whom were still teenagers, were coerced into these freak-off sex sessions with prostitutes that were often recorded, and the music producer pleasured himself while watching them. And apparently that may be recorded as well. But the federal source said that the Diddy would allegedly just watch the romps from another room on occasion, and he was also able to watch the action remotely on his phone and cast it into a TV in another part of the house. He didn't have to be in the room when all the sex was taking place. And there's also evidence that these women didn't feel like they were free to go. Now, the significance of that is that the girls will be able to say, I didn't feel like I could leave because he controlled the situation, he controlled the money, etc. Almost like a pimp does, correct? Human trafficking. And that will take away the consensual argument that Sean Did He Do It Combs lawyers attempted to make in court yesterday, that this was all consensual. It's not illegal. It's just a lifestyle. And who are we to judge Mr. Combs' lifestyle? Well, the law can judge his lifestyle if it involves minors or it's not consensual. So that is a bad fact for Mr. Combs. Now, Mr. Combs would also apparently keep videos of these rather sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating sessions, sometimes without the victim's knowledge, so that he could use them as collateral to ensure their continued obedience and silence of the victims as well. Now, as you may recall, we told you he faces 3 federal charges of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, a lot of these federal charges came after a flurry of civil lawsuits in the past year by people who allege he subjected them to physical or sexual abuse during the height of his fame back in the 90s and 2000s. Now, the police say they have victims that are cooperating with the police and this particular prosecution. Now, there's a lot of celebrities. It's going to be interesting to see if a lot of celebrities will be on the future witness list. And take a look at this video. This is a video of Mr. Sean Did He Do It Combs bragging about his parties. And look at this guy, totally passed out, and Sean Combs is bragging about it.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for all those in London that don't know what happens to the white man when he comes to a P. Diddy party, this is what happens to the white man.
It's so unfortunate.
You gotta pull back though, so they can see. That's crazy. Matt, move out the way. You're still alive. Look at that. Look. Would you
Get the drink on his head.
And that's James from Simeon Mobile Disco. He is a actual DJs aren't supposed to pass out, but when they come to one of my parties, this is what happens to them. I put them to sleep.
Next, there's going to be a new prosecutor on the Karen Reed matter. And the interesting thing is the prosecutors went and hired a defense attorney to help the prosecutors. You can't make this stuff up. So when Karen Reed returns to court for her retrial in the death of her former boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe, the prosecution in the controversial and closely watched case will be led by a new outside attorney with experience doing a lot of high-profile cases as a defense attorney. That's right. The Norfolk County District Attorney Michael Morrissey announced yesterday that he has tapped defense attorney Hank Brennan as a special assistant district attorney to lead the retrial, calling him a highly respected and skilled former prosecutor and longtime defense attorney with over 25 years of experience in both state and federal court, and he has handled lots of complex cases. The district attorney said he looks forward to Attorney Brennan, working in concert with the trial team that previously prosecuted the case, which resulted in a mistrial. But Mr. Brennan represented mobster James Whitney Bulger in the federal murder trial in Boston. And he states that he assumes full responsibility and all obligations for prosecuting this case and will do so meticulously and ethically and zealously without compromise. The retrial is due to begin in January. Now, as you know, Reed also has a couple of high-profile attorneys. First, they use the Los Angeles-based lawyer Alan Jackson and local guy by the name of David Yannetti. They have also been part of the team that appeared in the Supreme Court there in Massachusetts to have see if the two of the three charges brought should be dismissed as it relates to the mistrial issue. We've talked about that before, so we're not going to talk about it today. But as you simply may recall, the jurors had reached apparently a decision on two of the charges, but not the third. And the two that they had reached were not guilty, but the court never accepted those verdicts, so they really don't count. Now, once news traveled to the defense attorneys for Karen Reed, they gave the following statement. Michael Morrissey has decided to use taxpayer funds to hire an outside lawyer to prosecute this case, and that speaks volumes about his confidence in his own team. Ooh, ouch, ouch. Dig that knife in there deep. Anyway, the defense team for Karen Reed says they can bring anyone they want to court, and we will beat this unjust prosecution just like we did the last time. Like we've said to Mr. Morrissey previously, do your worst. We'll see you in court. Now, I do find it interesting, and it's certainly the prerogative, I guess, of any prosecutor to bring on any prosecutors that they need to do the case. It's basically a vehicular assault hit and run that most any county court deputy should be able to try themselves, let alone a district court felony DA. So the fact that they brought in a former prosecutor and defense attorney to do it, it really says, man, we're not confident in the team that we have. Very, very interesting. Speaks volumes for sure. It's going to be an interesting retrial, assuming it goes. Next, Bryan Kohberger gets to meet his new judge. I can't wait. So obviously, Bryan Kohberger is charged with the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students, and he's going to make his first court appearance in Ada County next week. I can't wait. So Judge Stephen Hippler, he's the chief judge there in the 4th Judicial District, was recently assigned to this case by the Idaho Supreme Court. He has scheduled a status conference on September 26th at 2 p.m. Now, as you probably already know, but I'm going to tell it to you again, the Idaho Supreme Court moved Kohberger's murder trial from Moscow to Boise, and Kohberger was transferred via his private jet just this past Sunday to get him there to Ada County. Now, Kohberger, like I said, accused of killing 4 of those students. There in Moscow, Idaho, Ethan Chapin, Zaina Kernobel, Madison Milgan, and Kaylee Gonsalves. Obviously, Kohberger faces 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony burglary. Now, prosecutors do intend to seek the death penalty if the jury convicts him of those charges. And the Kohberger team is obviously fighting to make sure that the death penalty never makes it to a jury. Now, the trial for Mr. Kohberger was scheduled to start in June of 2025 by the previous judge, John Judge. But with the venue change there to Boise and the change of judge, it could lead to a change of the trial schedule, which will probably be taken up at the hearing next week. Like I said, Judge Hippler is expected to set new court schedule, and we will bring it to you live. Like I said, the hearing will be first come, first serve if you want to get a seat in Ada, or you can simply come to CrimeTalk and we will stream it for you live. Next, an ex-CIA employee gets 30 years in prison. So this guy, Brian Jeffrey Raymond of Las Mesa, California, who, it's interesting, in the press release, they refer to him as a former U.S. government employee. Yeah, the government employee with the CIA. Well, he got sentenced to 30 years in prison for drugging and sexually abusing numerous women in multiple countries. And then he would photograph and record them and have dozens of nude and partially nude women photographed without their consent, while they were apparently unconscious or somewhat incapable of consenting. Now, Mr. Raymond pled guilty back in November of 2023 to 1 count each of sexual abuse, abusive sexual conduct, coercion and enticement, and transportation of obscene material. As part of the plea agreement, Mr. Raymond admitted to drugging and then engaging in non-consensual sexual acts with 4 women and non-consensual contact with 6 women. Mr. Raymond further admitted to drugging and then creating obscene materials depicting 28 women without their knowledge or permission and drugging 2 other women. If there is not a case of doing your homework, crimetalksearch.com, ladies and gentlemen. I guess what does a predator look like? Well, this predator, the CIA employee, he would lure unsuspecting women to his government-leased housing and drug them, said the United States attorney. And then after drugging these women, he would then strip them, sexually abuse, and photograph them. And the United States attorney says that the sentence today ensures that the defendant, Mr. Raymond, will be properly marked as a sexual offender for life, and he will spend a substantial portion of the rest of his life behind bars. The United States attorneys went on and say that Mr. Raymond sexually exploited dozens of women over the course of 14 years, including time while he served abroad as a U.S. government employee. And the sentence underscores the criminal division of the Department of Justice and their commitment to prosecuting sexual abuse in violation of federal law. No matter where the violations occur or who commits them, they are grateful to their partnership along with the Mexican government and will continue to work with their domestic and international partners to pursue justice for victims of sexual exploitation. Now, according to court records, Mr. Raymond was assigned in the Mexico City, Mexico office, and that's where he drugged and sexually assaulted several women in his government-leased housing. Additionally, between 2006 and 2020 in Mexico City and elsewhere, Raymond drugged and then photographed at least 25 victims while they were nude or partially nude. And like I said, then Raymond would then touch and manipulate the victims' bodies while they were unconscious and incapable of consent. He attempted to delete the explicit photographs and videos depicting the victims after learning about a criminal investigation involving him. Well, he's ordered to serve lifetime supervised release. Once he is released, he has to pay $260,000 in restitution to the victims, and he is required to register as a sex offender. Since he's mid-40s, 30 years, he's got to serve 85% in the federal system. He may make it out. He may make it out. Now, this is a story that shows you what a good dad should do. A Florida father took matters into his own hands when he confronted an alleged peeping Tom peering into his daughter's bedroom window. So back on September 13th, armed with a Louisville slugger, the man camped out in his backyard waiting for the suspect, who he said had been terrorizing the neighborhood for about a year. So the dad gave a statement and basically said that this guy was up by his daughter's window, and he had a couple of choice words, and then he turned toward me. And that's when Dad swung the bat. It didn't seem to faze him. He apparently was a pretty big dude, so he was going to go for his head, and when he did, the peeping Tom started to run. Now, the security footage shows the dad chasing the suspect down the street, and he can be heard yelling out to the neighborhood for help. Call the cops, call the cops. He can be heard screaming. Now, as the pair run out of the frame, you can still hear the dad fired up, yelling at the suspect, stating, "Where are you going? Where are you going? I got something for you." You can also hear the dad shouting that. Apparently, the suspect has been caught creeping around multiple neighborhood homes, and just one day before this incident, he was seen outside the same house. That's why the dad sat in the chair, grabbed a beer and a baseball bat. Frankly, he didn't think that the guy would show up, because who has the nerve to show up at the exact same time that the cops were called to a place that had the exact next night? That is bold, for sure. Anyway, according to the deputies, the man was identified as Damon Smith. He's 29 years old, and he lives just a block away. Now, Mr. Smith was contacted and arrested, and he admitted to being chased off the property. He also admitted that he gets a thrill and has an adrenaline boost walking around peeping in people's homes. The sheriffs go on to say that Mr. Smith was wearing a Michael Myers t-shirt while he was out running around the neighborhood. The shirt features an iconic line from the Halloween franchise, "Everyone is entitled to one good scare." Now, the police said we don't know what his intentions are, if it was something that was going to escalate over time, and the whole Michael Myers thing was his role model or what, but we might have just caught him in time. Smith is charged with aggravated stalking, voyeurism, and prowling. His bond is currently set at $86,000. Now, he has a limited criminal history, just making bomb threats to a high school back in 2013. All right, you can't even trust the Uber drivers anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Now we already know it's scary going into unknown places, but we do it quite regularly these days, ladies and gentlemen. We get into cars with strangers, Ubers and Lyfts, and we have strangers come to our house all the time. And now whether it's Uber Eats or Grubhub or whomever delivers your food to your house, another reason to be careful. A mother was zip-tied in front of her small children as armed men in Texas who were posing as food delivery drivers forced their way into a Houston home. Now, these same thugs shot at a police officer who later arrived at the home where the mom and kids were being terrorized after a neighbor called 911. So apparently the armed men pushed their way into the house after the mother answered the door, thinking that they were there to deliver some food. Well, guess what? They forced their way in, and of course they were hiding their guns that were over their hoodies. The guy apparently came to the door with a DoorDash bag, and he knocked or rang the doorbell, and apparently the daughter was going to tell him that he was at the wrong address. That apparently is the victim's father describing to local news personnel what took place. Apparently, as soon as the door was opened, the guy pulled out a gun out of the DoorDash bag, and then he proceeded to ransack the house. Now, a neighbor watched the strangers rush into the house, immediately called 911 for help, and then the police arrived. While the police were still en route to the home, the woman was bound at the wrists, was forced at gunpoint to guide the intruders through her home and show them where all the valuables were. A Houston police officer, Officer Durfee, arrived at the home after the suspicious neighbor called for help. He entered the home and confronted the robbers. Officer Durfee was shot in the thigh by one of the gunmen, who then fled the house. Now, that man has been identified as Raymond Perez, and he's charged with aggravated assault against a public servant, aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon, and unlawfully carrying of a firearm. The second gunman was taken into custody inside the house by Durfee's partner. Now, the man who shot the cop was eventually caught in the neighbor's backyard. Now, the mom and her children, ages 3 and 1, thank goodness were not harmed. It just shows you, ladies and gentlemen, you gotta be careful. Everywhere you go, you have to be engaging in situational awareness. Be aware of your surroundings. And yes, it may look innocent. You just got to be careful. And get video cameras. Get video cameras at your house, ladies and gentlemen. All right, next on the docket, this day in legal history. September 19th, 1945. A British court sentenced to death American-born William Joyce, known as the Lord Ha-Ha, for his Nazi propaganda broadcast during World War II. He was hanged ultimately on January 6, 1946. And on September 19, 2002, President George Bush gave a speech to Congress requesting broad authority to invade Iraq and to disarm Saddam Hussein. It's legal news, ladies and gentlemen. Got to make it legal, right? If it's not on the paperwork. Didn't happen. Next on the docket, our dumb criminal of the day. A male inmate in Arizona jail was caught on camera crawling past a security guard to get to the female side of the facility, where he later confessed that he planned to rape a female inmate. Please meet Justin Avery. Not only is he dumb, he's scary. So he apparently was in custody for allegedly sexually assaulting 5 women near the Arizona State University Tempe campus when surveillance caught him sneaking past the oblivious correctional officer at 4 a.m. Now, Mr. Avery, wearing a bright orange jumpsuit, was seen dropping to the floor and scooting on his behind to get past the busy male side of the Maricopa County intake facility to the much quieter female side. He later admitted that he snuck over like a spider because he was attracted to a female inmate's fat ass. I don't make it up, ladies and gentlemen. I just read it. Now, when Avery made it to the women's side, he apparently crept up behind a sleeping female inmate, dropped his trousers, and later admitted he planned on raping her. Right? You know it's scary, ladies and gentlemen, when the rapists are raping women in jail that they shouldn't even be around. Anyway, he stopped when another female inmate saw him and screamed, "Hey, get off of her." Like I said, he confessed during the interviews and was charged with an additional count of sexual assault. He's going to court next Tuesday. Mr. Avery, you are a dumb criminal of the day. Bad enough you're in for sexually assaulting women around the college campuses, but the fact that you cannot control your urges and impulses and you try to do it to female inmates as well, knowing the whole place is covered in video. Yes, that is dumb and a little scary. All right, that's all we have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk. And yes, the Constitution matters.